I felt that we did the important and fully appropriate thing, which is to bring the attention not just to the people in Washington that matter, but to the British. And we felt, and I still believe this, that it was really going to be on them to take responsibility for fixing this.
Now, what he's referring to is the fact that it seems that Geithner had become somewhat aware of these problems back as long ago, I think it was 2007, 2008, and rather than do something about it, this is when he was at the head of the New York Fed, he referred it to other regulators. Now, David Weidner is joining us today. David, now based in San Francisco, has written an interesting column about what this phenomenon represents. He's talking about the idea of blaming the guys who are not in the room and seeing it more broadly as something that applies to all of Wall Street and the financial industry especially. Give us a bit of a rundown, David, on what you're getting at there. Is Geithner just behaving like any CEO that we've seen who's finding a way to weasel out of this, or has he got a legitimate position?
Well, Michael, I mean, what's happening, and we're seeing this with not only Timothy Geithner, but a lot of the other CEOs and Wall Street powerful who are under fire, is that they're using this old Wall Street adage: when it starts getting hot, when you start getting accused of things or something goes wrong, it's blame the other guy in the room. And so what we saw Geithner doing before Congress was basically blaming European regulators, saying, "Oh well, yes, I was made aware of these terrible issues going on with Libor, and I referred them to the other regulators at the CFTC, at the SEC, and of course the FSA and bank regulators over in the UK." So in a way, he as head of the New York Fed, he learned his Wall Street principles well. This is a tried and true practice. And we've been seeing it a lot lately because we had a lot of scandals.
What should he have done differently, and what would his remit as the New York Fed? Should he have actually sort of taken action himself, and is there action he could have taken?
Well, I think he did half of the right thing. I mean, certainly you definitely want to let, if the rate is set in London, then of course you want to let the London regulators know. But I think the key thing here, and one thing we're finding out about this Libor scandal, is that it doesn't affect just companies or investment products in London. It affects them globally. So we're talking about the rates that corporations were paying on their debt. We're talking about the rates consumers were paying on their debt. We're talking about returns that retirees were getting or that companies were making on their investments. So this wasn't an issue isolated where London regulators had authority. If Timothy Geithner is head of the New York Fed, this is an issue affecting his banks and his economy.
It's affecting everybody. I mean, in fact, this story out today, or yesterday, in fact, from the Kirsten Grind, BlackRock and Vanguard are now launching internal investigations into whether or not their funds have been affected by this. And of course, that deals with all the 401ks and the array of mutual funds that so many Americans have. And that's the extent of this crisis. What do you see it doing, though, broadly to the culture of Wall Street, the culture of course being very similar in London? You've written a lot about this. Is this possibly the nail in the coffin, or does we just get back to the same old after this?
I think it's interesting. Today Barclays had these great results that exceeded expectations, and they made this profit despite all these fines they've had to pay. And I think this is the double-edged sword of bringing in investment bankers in a Wall Street culture into traditional banks, is that you do have the potential to make a lot of money, but on the other side you have this incredible risk taking, and of course with risk taking comes the temptation to break the law or break the boundaries, and that's what we're dealing with now. We're seeing people who went too far, and of course the people at the top, they're not responsible. It's always the people below them. At JP Morgan, it's the traders. At Barclays, it's the people who set the rates. The list goes on and on.
I think that, of course, speaks to what we were just talking about the previous segment about the end of Glass-Steagall and the fact that they have got the risk takers now in there with the commercial banking. But that's all we have time for now. David, thank you very much for your time.